Hey there, you're tuning in to LowKey by Oaky, our easygoing sessions for hotel professionals where we chat about industry trends, issues, and solutions. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, our dear listeners. My name is Allison Chambers, sales manager here at Oaky, and today I'm hosting our LowKey by Oaky podcast. And I have the immense pleasure of being joined by Gail Peters from the Q Hotels collection in the UK. And today we're going to be chatting about optimizing hotel types. And I know I, for one, am incredibly excited to learn from Gail's expertise. So Gail, we're really excited to speak with you today. And actually, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, and I'm sure our readers would as well. So could you share a little bit more about yourself and your role at Q Hotels Collection?
Yeah, absolutely. Morning, Alison, and thank you for inviting me. And welcome to everybody else that's listening. Yes, my name is Gail Peters. I'm from the Q Hotels Collection. And within my role, I am the head of revenue management. I've been in hospitality for over 25 years, and I've worked my way up through the different departments within the hotel, but then decided that was my passion, was revenue management, and thoroughly enjoy just the variety that the role does bring. That's different every single day, different challenges and opportunities that it can bring. But I do have a true passion for hospitality, not only for working in it, but also for traveling and enjoying it as well.
Indeed, it definitely keeps us on our toes, right? We're sometimes never in the same place 2 days in a row. And indeed, it's really wonderful to hear about your tenure there and all your experience. And again, I'm very excited to pick your brain today. So, I'd love to jump into things and just see a little bit more about how hotels and how you are optimizing room types. So I guess, we should kind of get started. Hotels are serving so many different segments. And I think, one of the challenges that I hear is that there's so many different types of guest preferences and spending capacities. So, what kind of strategies are you employing for maximizing room types, given all of these different types of guest segments?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the key thing I would say for any hotel is to just reevaluate what room types you even have within your properties. So knowing that you can cater for different clientele and different market segments, but going back to first of all, just look at what are the room types within the property. Do you have different sizes? Do you have different views, for example? And even when you segment the different market segments or the customer segments, then it's also looking at even the bed types, what rooms have got the small cozy doubles that are fine for a business traveller versus a super king that is more ideal for families or for couples. And then also more so for the family rooms, have you got bigger rooms that then can take a extra bed in that room? Or is it a sofa bed pull out that you have in that room? So it's really just looking at what have you got within the hotel, first of all, that you could maximize on in terms of a room type. And even, have you got historical bedrooms that have got features in them that you could add that little bit extra to for a customer that is on a leisure stay that's looking for a little bit more of an experience within the property, and a special occasion, for example. So looking what room types could cater for that too. Is there something special about that room that could make that stay that little bit extra? And as I say, bit more special.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to think about and to consider, I think. And it's interesting that you bring up the bed types. I'm American myself, and I didn't know this about Americans, but we love king beds. And
Yes.
the thing that I heard from Americans when they come to Europe is that that's one thing that they're looking for is, having a king bed, the bigger bed sizes. So that's one of the things I had heard, but really also interesting to hear how you guys are doing it in other capacities. I can imagine that, trying to be as innovative as possible in how creative you are in, creating these kind of, room types and segments and really looking at all the different types of opportunities. So, how are you creating these unique experiences? Could you give a couple of examples of innovative ways that you've been able to do this yourself?
Yeah, sure. Sure. And, it might be that you haven't got a great deal of different room types and you can't really have a differential between a standard room to another upgraded room. So you could look at add-ons and additional extras that you could include in that room. So, for example, if you do have a very box style property, could you highlight the top floor bedrooms and put extras into those rooms, such as upgraded teas and coffees, bathrobes in the room, and create almost a package that could go with that room, such as including discount off F&B, for example, or even have something in the room for arrival. So you could include selection of drinks in the minibar, or if you know that of a weekend you do get leisure guests that come for special occasions, you could include a bottle of champagne within that room type. So customizing what the customer could be looking for within the add-ons, whether it's a leisure guest, whether it's a length of stay guest, whether it's a family, then you could look to do that, to create sort of a room type, but just with added values and with extras.
I love that. I think that really lends to the guest experience because, it could be a standard room, but because it's on a higher floor, it's a better view for them, or it's quieter for them, or it's farther away from the elevators. And then with all those extras and add-ons, they get to kind of have more of an experience there as well. So that's really great. I love that.
Yeah, and actually the quiet location has a great value. So it's a real good point that those rooms are away from reception or away from a loud area within the property, and sleep is very important. People really do value their sleep, so it could be rooms that that do offer more of that relaxation. Then look at those ones for maybe customers that are coming on spa weekends, that are looking for that relaxation, that are looking for that rejuvenation, good night's sleep, getting away from it all. So looking at features that can help as well for those different types of customers too.
It's really interesting how all these things really do add to the experience. Just having stayed in a room next to the elevators before, and then also stayed at one at the end, it could be the same room, same size, but really such a different experience. So that's great to hear.
Absolutely, yes.
And so I was curious, what role would personalization kind of play in this, optimization? So, are you able to also add that personalization element for guests to even more enhance that experience?
Yes, I mean, we're lucky within the Q Hotels collection that we do still have a contact center. So we do still have a center that people can call to make their reservations with us. So for us, that's, it's great that we can ask those questions so we can really personalize that stay. So we can truly find out what's the occasion, what's important to the guests when they come and stay with us. And then those room types can really be sold and tailored to why the guests are coming to stay. And whether that is just, again, very functional for a corporate customer, but they're there for a length of stay. So they do maybe want a bigger bed, or they do want to have a quieter location within the hotel. Or if that is for that special birthday or anniversary celebration, so then we can really tailor the upsells to the best rooms, to the suites, to the rooms that are in the more historic parts of the hotel. So yes, that personalization and being able to first of all just dig into that reason why the customer is coming, and then of course website and personalization on the website. That of course is moving with technology and developing. So absolutely, it is really key that we understand why the customer is coming, look back upon on their stays they've had with us before. You know, have they been with us every year for an anniversary, or you know, are they enjoying our hotels for families, that we can see that they've always stayed in a family room. So then that would be the first room type that could be deployed to them, particularly when they then start looking at personalisation on the website.
That's great. So it sounds like you have that human touch there with your call center, which is wonderful. I think, you know, it's always a question in hotels of automation versus the human touch, you know, which one is more important. But, you know, I think it's also important to have both of them, right? And so you also mentioned the website. Are there any other areas that you're kind of adding this personalization, customization aspect in, and kind of also automating it in some ways? So I was just curious if there's other tools that you're also using for this.
Yes, and when you look at that customer journey, there is so many stages that you can help with that personalization, and whether that's to begin with on the website, making sure that we're really clear in what we are selling for our room types. Images, of course, are so key. So I say making sure that you've got up-to-date imagery and really clear imagery of what makes that room type different. Then you've got the booking engine. So not only that first shopping screen, I would say, for the website, but then once you get into that booking engine, making sure that visually, again, you're optimizing everything you can have, whether that's videos or 360 tours of the rooms, or just making sure you have a carousel of images and not just that one image. And then if a customer is unsure and they haven't made that choice, we do utilize a couple of different tools then. So we do utilize Oaky, of course, for pre-arrival upsells. And then if the customer is still unsure, then we do attempt to upsell then again on arrival. And utilizing, again, other providers that can support with that is also key. You want to make sure the front office team actually know about the room types, and that they have real clear talk lines of how to upsell those room types. Have they even stayed in one of the upgraded room types, so they can really talk about it and really experience it. I would also say one great thing is to have an incentive scheme in place for the front office team, making sure that we are rewarding them for supporting that revenue generation and upselling into that room type. Again, to help the customers experience, ensure that they get a really pleasant stay, knowing that there is an occasion, or you know, whatever is the story that they're having that conversation on check-in. And making sure that they're being rewarded, it's tracked, it's then paid out when it should be paid out as well is really key. So making sure they're properly rewarded for upselling and supporting the revenue of the business.
That's an interesting point. I think, of course, I hear that also, you know, incentivizing the agents is really important to the process. And I can also imagine that not only does it, you know, motivate them to make the offer, but it also motivates them to learn the room types, like you said, and to really understand all of the extras that they can add in to make this a better experience. Maybe it's not just the room type, but like we said earlier, the higher floor or farther from the elevator. And not only does this help them, you know, learn it, remember it, and do it better for next time, but also just enhance every guest interaction that they're having at check-in as well. So I think the knock-on effects from something like that are far-reaching, actually, and not just, of course, they earn money and they're happy to do so and keep doing it, but I think for the business, it's also, like I said, far-reaching effects there for guests.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, customers as well within the branded hotels, we do have 5 branded hotels. With the loyalty schemes, then, you know, they do want to be recognised. So it's important that we know, actually, this is a silver, gold, whatever member, and that we are also rewarding that loyalty, that they then are getting a upgraded room type, and that customers feel special with their loyal customers and they're coming back to the hotel, recognizing that customer's anniversary stay, or it could be it's their 10th stay in one of the properties. So again, just rewarding them for that. The balance of complimentary upgrades versus paid upgrades is also one to balance very much from a revenue management point of view. We always want to try and maximize the revenue, but there are elements, of course, that we do need to give complimentary upgrades. And maybe that's also one to think about for the room types. When you look at the room types within the property, try and have more than two. Ideally, you want three. You want to have that real clear, this is an upgrade that, is sort of at the middle road, and then you've got the higher upgrades. So you've got a certain level of room types that you can upgrade to, also just for that complimentary upgrade for that loyal customer as well, that's what they can receive as an upgrade into a certain level of room.
Definitely. And I think that's an important point. I know that we're in the business of making money and optimizing revenue, and that's why we're talking about this today. But I think there's also that time and place, for the complimentary offers to really enhance the guest experience. Of course, shouldn't be doing it too often, like you said, but, having that time and place is important as well.
Yes, for sure.
Well, we've spoken a lot about kind of the strategy and some of the tools that you're using, but I was curious, how would you measure the success of this? So if you've tried something new, if you've put together, a different room attribute or room type, or tried to put together a different kind of add-ons, how would you be able to measure if that was successful for guests?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the occupancy of that room type is a key matrix to see, how often has that room type been used, but then to also look at the average rate that's been achieved in that room type versus an upgraded room type versus your standard room type, and what is that difference between that average rate that has been achieved. Gives an indication, obviously, of how many upsells have been completed versus how many complimentary upgrades have happened. Also, you have got PMS systems that can really support you with that. So looking at what's the room type booked versus then the room type that is stayed, and whether that rate has changed between the room type booked versus the room type stayed. Would definitely be a key matrix as well to have a look at. What are we managing to achieve for those upsells? But even feedback from front office, feedback on how are they managing to upsell the room types? Are they managing to achieve the price guidelines that have been given? Or do they have they got the feedback that actually that £100 is too much of a stretch, and give them even a bit of power in terms of negotiations if need be to really try and find that price point. Utilize other systems as well to help you with that. So look at your revenue management system. Did they give you the opportunity to allow for that dynamic price upsell? So set your boundaries. Where do you want to sell that room type? How low? What's the lowest price that you want to actually sell it at? And then, see what the demand is for that room type that the revenue management system can really support you with, to make sure then you're pricing it correctly and that you are receiving the best revenue for the demand for that room type on any given day. So, that all helps. I mean, obviously, looking at your overall average rate, what you are achieving within your segments, because when you have your upgraded room types, you do need to look at how you're selling them to your different segments. So not just the transient customer, but also to your meetings and events customers. Like how do you sell it? Do you include it as a blended rate for that group if they want more than your standard room types? Or do you tell them, do you give them X amount of rooms at standard, X amount of rooms at a deluxe? And this would be the supplement. So looking at how you would sell into those customers as well. And then you can look at those matrix of what's the rates that you have been achieving for those customers. We have golf resorts as well. So there's always a finite line of how many twin rooms have you got for your golfers, for example. And then, what's then standard twin rooms versus then your upgraded twin rooms. Does that work for that customer? Or are they just more interested to get out on that golf course that, they're not as interested in an upsell of a bedroom, or actually is it important to them that they do have the space and that they do have, 2 double beds and not a single standard twin bedded room? So we're looking at the rates that you're achieving within your segments as well.
That's interesting. I think you have definitely a diverse portfolio there at the Q Hotels collection. And so, making sure that you're taking care of golf type properties or branded type properties or, all the other different types of properties that you guys have. You've definitely got a challenge there just because guest preferences are so different property to property as well. So I can imagine you're spending a lot of days in front of the numbers there, but also nice to hear that the feedback is also taken on board. Can I ask how do you keep track of the feedback that the front office team is receiving? Do you guys have an internal tool that you record that in, or do you kind of send up some summaries between the teams as far as just kind of manual communication?
In terms of the price that they're managing to achieve with the upsell?
The feedback from the guests on their experience, or if it was too expensive or that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, we do have the standard customer feedback. So whatever channel that they've booked through, of course, that they ask for their feedback, or we do also ask them on a post-stay survey to give us feedback. But generally, a lot of that, it does come directly from the teams within the hotel. So feedback that we would have within our commercial meetings, feedback that we would gather on an anecdotal level as well, to be honest.
Yeah, gives you that well-rounded picture of what's really going on as well, and not just the numbers.
Yes,
super nice. And so I can imagine that there are also some risks and challenges that you run into when optimizing your room types, whether that be, trying something new that didn't work as well, or just maybe different challenges that you haven't come across before. So, have you experienced any of these, maybe on focusing too much on the premium room types or the lower room types? I was just curious, how have you seen these challenges come about in the process?
Yes, sometimes over-promising and under-delivering is got to be something to bear in mind. From an operational point of view, if you're saying X is going to be in the room for arrival, well, actually making sure it is in the room for arrival, or that too much is put in, the cost versus the actual price of the upsell. We've got to make sure that we are making money with what we are including. So that's where I would say you have to make sure you've got your lowest price set based upon the cost that you are putting those extras, whether it's a mini bar, whether it's an espresso pods in the room, the extra cleaning that may be involved as well, whether it's about the bathrobes, whatever extras are in there. So it's making sure that you do know what that cost is for each of the elements that you put into the room, and then you're clear with that lowest price that you would actually go to for upselling. I suppose going back as well to talk about the segmentation, that you don't want to have too many room types for your mix of business, even though obviously that can change midweek to weekend, you might want to think about how long the front office team or your reservations team would have to be balancing the room types, would have to be maybe overbooking your standard room types to ensure you've got enough for your corporate clients midweek, versus then having able to have the inventory that you can sell for the upgraded room types of a weekend. So that could be a pitfall at times, that you don't have enough of that standard room type, that it could then make you look expensive within your comp set when your standard rooms have then been full, they've closed, and then you've moved up to that next price level within your transient rates, that then could make you too expensive within the comp set. So yes, that balancing of the segmentation mix between then what as the inventory levels for the hotel, but I'd also say is one to watch out for.
Definitely. It's a fine line, isn't it? Well, there's our bell. So it's time to move on to our next couple of questions. But it was a pleasure to dig into optimizing the room types with you, Gail. And now I actually have a new question for you. So this is from our previous podcast guest. And this guest was asking, how do you keep up motivation among the operational teams when you leave them with a new tech tool to implement? So I know that, I've definitely had new tech tools in a team, and it's not always easy. So I was curious how you're handling the teams when you leave them with a new tool.
All right. Yes. I suppose you've really got to take into account when you are deploying new technology, just how disruptive it can be on a team. So I would say making sure that they are informed from the beginning, that they're given the time to absorb the new technology, that they're actually given time, if it's something to do with a front-facing department, that they're giving time off the shop floor, so to speak, to really look at the tool and to understand the tool before they then are deployed within the business. I'd also say feedback is really key, to make sure you're then getting the feedback from the team members on how it's working, how it maybe isn't working. And then to just have regular check-in sessions of how is it going, giving the teams feedback as well, if it's something to do with revenue generation, for example. Actually, what is it generating? Is there a return on that investment that not only their time and the money of the company has gone into, but is it working? Is it not working? So I'd say evaluation, feedback, regular check-ins, and keeping everybody informed. I would say helps with that motivation, and giving them the time to absorb the new technology.
I'm happy to hear you aren't throwing your teams in the deep end there, Gail, but I couldn't agree more. I think, having not just jumping into things, but really having that period of time where you can take your time, learn things, evaluate, and have those check-in moments. That's so incredibly important. So thank you for sharing that as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if you are bringing in some new technology, you have really got to think about that, for sure.
Indeed. Take a quick minute at a shameless plug here. Shameless plug is where we can talk about a topic that's close to our heart or that we'd love to shout about. So Gail, do you have a shameless plug to share today?
I mean, that's got to be about the hotels. So we are the Q Hotels Collection. We've got 19 unique 4-star hotels and resorts across the UK. So ranging from Scotland all the way down to Kent, from having those resorts with beautiful locations that are hidden away little gems, such as Slaley Hall, just out in Northumberland, outside of Hexham, where we've got also golf courses within the property. So we've got 7 hotels with golf courses. Also spa. We've got spas in all but one of our hotels. So you can come and relax, whether that's for a full spa package, day, weekend, but we do day packages as well as not just overnight stays. And quite often people think that about properties, they can't just come into a property. So you absolutely can. You can come and use the spas, you can come and play on the golf course, you can come and have dinner with us. You don't have to just stay. But then also we've got fantastic meetings and events facilities, from your boardrooms to your team building to, we've got an arena that's down in Hampshire Court that can have 1,500 guests for a dining. It's one of the biggest venues within the southeast. We've also got one of our properties at Norton Park that's got a manor house that you can hire exclusively. So we've got such a great range for weddings as well, with the beautiful grounds, the likes of Alton Hall, for example. So we've got a great collection. We have 5 branded hotels, and then the rest are our independent properties. So yes, we have something for everyone.
Yeah. If for anyone listening, run, don't walk to the spas at Q Hotels Collection. That's what I said.
Thank you, Allison.
And from my side, just a quick shameless plug. So in about 6 weeks, I will be heading to the Sunshine State in the U.S., Florida, doing a tiny Florida roadshow. So I'll be around for a few weeks. And then we're ending that with the Ideas Revenue Management Conference in Miami at the end of July. So if I get to see anyone there, please say hi, let me know. I'd love to see you in Miami. What better place to do so?
Absolutely.
Excited for that conference, indeed. All right, so this brings us to the end of our podcast episode today. Gail, I can't tell you what a pleasure it was to speak with you and to learn from you. I definitely learned some innovative and creative ways that room types are being optimized. For example, especially not just on the room type level, but like we talked about, quieter rooms, farther away from the hustle and bustle, but also looking at your segments, so your business guests or your mice and groups, or looking at your different types of properties, so your golf or your branded hotels, and really creating this experience for guests. I think you guys are doing an amazing job there, and I once again appreciate you sharing these insights with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for the invite as well.
Of course. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.